So if you have been a sudser for longer than like a minute, you know that there is one thing that I really, really, really hate in the soap making world, and those are straight lines. I don't know. But that is the soap challenge that we are tackling today in the Amy Warden Soap Challenge thing, is the straight lines designs. And I'm going to tell you about all of it in just a minute. But before I do, hello, I am Mrs. Soap and Clay. Let's make stuff. How's it going, sudsers? Welcome back to the channel. You are at Soap and Clay, where we make all the soapy things, and you are here for day 325 of 365 days of soap. And today we are tackling another Amy Warden Soap Challenge, and we are doing the straight lines designs. Now, again, I don't like straight line designs. I don't have the patience for them. I do like looking at them, however. So that's fun. When I was actually going through the process, I didn't actually look at the tutorial too terribly much because there are lots of ways to achieve some really cool straight lines. So instead what I did was I went to the original challenge submissions, and there was this one bar that was so gorgeous, and I'll definitely show it, in the video and do the things, but it was amazing. It had lines that went this way and lines that went that way, and it was just wild. And I decided that's what I'm going to do. That's my inspiration. I'm going to do that, which is wild and stupid and really stupid for someone who hates straight lines. But it actually ends up being kind of a long pour because there are 14 or 15 different individual pours in this one. So I'm going to stop talking about it here and we're going to go check it out in the video. Yeah, that thing said what it meant. It's the first 7 pours, because this is what I decided to do. And the reason, these are all my calculations and all of the different, how much soap I need for each different layer of this soap. And the scent that we are using is Coriander Rosewood from Lone Star. And again, no vanillin information, Cat 9, 6.4%. This is a very interesting blend in that it smells so familiar and not like a dupe of, Victoria's Secret or Bath and Body Works familiar. Like, there is some big company that doesn't make soap or body products or whatever that has some product that smells just like this. And I cannot put my finger on what it is. It might be maybe Scentsy, maybe. I have no idea. This scent was so weird to work with, because it was such an evocative thing. It just bringing on all of these memories that I can't quite wrap my brain around what that memory is. And so it was very strange with this, and I had to continue to deal with this and what this is and fail to figure it out for 3 days. Because that is how long this pour took. So here's the thing. Here's the reason why I decided to do this. This is the straight lines challenge, right? And you know how much I hate layered soaps and straight lines and all of the things. So I went and I looked at the winners of this soap challenge from many years ago, and this was my inspiration. This is the 2nd place winner. This is Elena from Mysterious Soap, and she came up with this just stunning bar of soap that got second place. And in all actuality, I think it should have gotten first because it's just so good. So, so good. And I was reading her blog and she said that she had created a foam board mold that she could flip from side to side to do this. So it kind of looks like she started with the layers and then at the end put in the square. And look, there's my new ruler. I still love that ruler. I use the ruler for everything. And so I decided to start, so instead of having to flip the mold from side to side, I decided instead to build it from the square and work my way to the layers. And so I guess maybe it'll make more sense or I'll be better able to explain it in the actual pour. So all of the things. So the first layer that I'm putting in, the first pour, is that little square portion that was in, you know, her picture. Stunning bar of soap. Just stunning. So beautiful. Such beautiful lines. All of the things. And I decided, you know, if we're going to be doing the soap challenge, I should make it really complicated, right? Like really, really complicated. I don't know why I decided that making it complicated was a good idea, because in and of itself, making straight lines is complicated enough for me. Like, I don't have the patience. I forget that I'm pouring a soap while I walk away and go do something else. And then I remember and go, oh shit, I need to go do that. It's all a thing. And I don't know, again, why I decided to try to recreate one of the most complicated soap pours I've really ever seen. Because the precision on this is the big thing, right? Very precise layers. And so what I ultimately did was I broke down on that piece of paper that I showed you the actual size of the bar and the height that I wanted each, height or the width that I wanted each layer to be, and then figured out based on that how much oil I would need to accomplish that. And so first, you know, pour, I want this square part to be 1 inch thick and 1 inch tall. And so 1 inch by 1 inch by 12 inches, because that's the length of the mold, that times 0.4, and that gets me the oils and all of the things. And yes, great. And then for the second round, I'm going to pour next to the square. So I'm going to start pouring the green side first, and then I will pour the, you know, the ombre from, like, you know, black to white, or in this case white to black, above that. And it's just going to be, it'll go over the top of the layer that's being poured next to the square. And then so I can create, I can bust out 2 layers at a time using it this way. And so this was my thinking. I thought this was the best way to do it, to tackle this type of pour. So again, I'm doing 2 at a time instead of a whole bunch or individually. 14 layers all on their own. And so that's what I did. And I'm using popsicle sticks to keep everything where I want it as far as that, the depth. So like the layers are all essentially 0.25 inches wide or tall. And so I'm keeping the popsicle sticks, and I will take more out as I need, moving through the pour to ensure that all of the, well, to try to ensure that all of the layers are reasonably even. Because again, that's the biggest thing with all of it, is to accomplish something like this, the measurements are pretty precise. And this is something that I don't normally do, precise measurements. I usually just eyeball things, but this is something that you definitely cannot eyeball. And so this is another batch of soap that is getting mixed up. Everything is getting mixed up by hand, because putting, you know, the stick blender into 1 ounce of freaking oils is just, what's the point? And I have this teeny tiny little Pyrex that I'm working in, and it's all getting hand whisked, all getting whisked to emulsion by hand. It's crazy, crazy. And this is actually one of my favorite hacks if I'm going to be using dividers, is to give myself as much room as possible to pour in as often as possible. And so for that, with this, that means the divider is actually all the way to the other side wall, and I'm going to just pour it all in that, you know, area there, and then just take the actual, my God, where are my words? I guess I'm just reliving this and going, oh God, this is This is crazy. Yeah, and then take the actual divider and push it toward the actual soap that's been firmed up. Now, the reason why this took 3 days is because I'm never actually at the shop for long enough to have done this, right? Like to just, not in one day anyway, because, you know, I'm educating the kids, and I mean, I have all of the other things outside of the shop, and so I'm not this pour, because you have to wait for everything to set up between layers so you can pull the cardboard away and it won't get all schmoopy and weird. So I mean, just the wait time between each little section of layers that I'm pouring is at least 30 minutes before you can proceed, and I don't have that kind of time in all of it. I really don't. Because that would have been a not insignificant period of time just sort of hanging out at the shop, doing all the things. And so again, 3 days for this. And that was hard for me in and of itself, because waiting to cut the bar, and like, you're committed to this for 3 days, you have no idea how it's going to turn out, no idea what it's going to do. That's something that I've literally never done. In my soaping world, in my soaping journey, and all of the things, I have never dedicated that amount of time to a soap without being able to see anything that's going on. So yeah, that's all been, it was a very interesting pour. Like, just new experiences all around with all of it. And finding the right size tools to get into the thing, to smooth everything out so it's reasonably even across, you know, the length of the mold, all the things. This was definitely an incredibly interesting experience, and again, something that I have never spent this kind of time committed to just one batch of soap. It's wild. Now, for each of these pours, each layer on the green side gets lighter, is the thinking and the process and all the things. And each layer so the verticals, and each layer on the horizontal side, they're getting darker. And so, you know, the green side will end at a white or a very pale green, and the white side will end at a black, is the thinking there. And one of the problems with all this is when you are soaping over the course of 3 days, you kind of forget what your green was, and you can't really just test it. You know, you can't really take it out of the mold at this point and see. And so that was, you know, problematic. And so I end up having like every single green that I own out, going, well, what would be the next green in the hues of the things? And obviously the other side with the whites and the grays and everything, a lot easier, for sure. It's a lot easier to do. But yeah, no, it was a whole ass thing. And this went on for 14 pours, which I don't even think I ended up showing all of. I mean, there's no way. This video is way too short to actually have done it all. And obviously I'm cutting out the part where I mix up the line, all the oils and everything, but it's the same process as the first round, just over and over and over again for 3 days. But eventually I see daylight. And by daylight, I mean I hit the point where the very last thing left to do is the black layer. And I'm so excited to be hitting this point, because that means it's almost over. And I'm definitely here for it almost being over, but at the same time, I'm like terrified at this point to cut into the soap. Like, again, I've been focusing on one soap for 3 days. And I don't know how it's going. I don't know if I messed anything up anywhere. And I'm very, very nervous to see. And, you know, I mean, I'm going to show you what it looks like regardless, right? Because for good or for ill, this was 3 days of my life. So, you know, here's content. That's fun. Straight Line Designs Challenge was already going to be challenging enough for me. And I decided to turn it into a 3-day process of nightmare mode, smelling a scent that, again, just for 3 days, I smelled it It's familiar. I have no idea where it came from, where I know that scent from, and I still never figured it out at the end of those 3 days. Let's go check out this cut. Okay, and on to the cut of this bar. Now, Elena, on her blog, she actually did say that this took her a very long time, like over a week to do all of hers. And I tried to get it done in a number of days. Yep, big fingers crossed with this guy. I have no idea what we're going to be cutting into inside. And it's all a thing, really. And because of the difference, like we're talking about the parts of this were 3-day-old pours versus parts of it that weren't. The soap cutter did interesting things with all of it, but look at that. That's not terrible. Like that's a thing. Okay. That's not bad, you guys. That's a That's kind of cool. Now the side part, that last green that I poured, it's too thick. And I knew it was too thick, but I cheated because I was tired of working with it. And so I just poured what should have been 2 in that little section over there and decided if it's too thick, I'm just going to plane it down, which is exactly what I'm going to do. I'm just going to plane down that edge. But that's kind of cool. Like, my God. And my lines, would you call them actually straight? Well, I mean, no, not really, if you're hypercritical and a dick. But like, I happen to be hypercritical and dickish when it comes to myself. So yeah, I wouldn't actually call those super straight, but also at the same time, that could have been so much worse. That could have been the most disastrous whatever ever. And it wasn't. Like, it accomplished something. Does it look like Elena's? No, it doesn't. But it's never going to when you're like modeling your pour after someone else. You're never going to be able to do it exactly how they did because you're a different soaper. And you know, there's that. Again, she was my inspiration because this was such a challenging pour. Like, just this idea of doing this completely with fluid cold process soap batter and not with like, yeah, that needs to be cut down. We got to cut down that side. But yeah, doing it all with like just fluid cold process and not using like soap dough or soap that had already been made and then planed down to the right sides on one side, like to sort of make it. That intrigued me. Like, that super intrigued me. And I went, well, that's challenging as shit. So let's try that. And yeah, it was a challenge for sure. Figuring out the measurements, challenging. Figuring out how to prop everything up so it could solidify the right way and not get weird, challenging. Spending 3 days on a soap, challenging. Like, it's a whole ass thing for sure. And you know, that's cute. That is cute. I'm going to stop being super self-deprecating and I'm just going to go with, I am proud of my damn self that I did that and it was a thing and it doesn't look awful and it could have looked real awful and it didn't. That worked and that's crazy and wild. And Georgia May was coming in during these days and she hadn't done her straight lines yet. She wanted to see what I did with mine and how mine ended up looking. And she was like, well, I'm not going to do it that way. And I went, well, I think that's a good idea because spending 3 days on a soap is, wow, it's a thing. It's something that I will never do again, like literally never. But because it's meant to be challenging, I did this and I am proud to say that I did it. And so I have some sort of, knowledge base of it really. And so yeah, I will just plane down the sides of all of these just to make the straight lines kind of make sense and be less thick on that final light green side and, do the thing. But that's wild, you guys. That's crazy. If anyone else has ever tried this one and tried to mimic Elena's from Mysterious Soap, you should let me know. I'd be interested to, you know, check out your pictures too. So let me know and put your socials down below so I can look at it, because that would be, I would love to see what other people do with this. And if this has weirdly inspired you to try to do this pour, I also want to see it. So, you know, again, comment and put your socials so I can go look at it, because this was a thing, and I sort of want other people to experience this with me, just so I have someone else to like commiserate with over the whole thing. Like, yeah, it was long, it was crazy, but at the end of it, look what I've made. That's wild and weird, and I will never do it again. But ultimately, yeah, that's cool. I made a thing, guys. Look at that. That is day 325, the straight lines challenge. So survey says, not really worth it. I don't think. The design was fine. It was obviously not perfect, but considering, yeah, first timer with the moving of the whatever, and I'm literally just making it up as I go along, how I'm going to keep the actual like divider straight. It was very interesting. I don't think I would ever do something like that again. That ended up being a 3-day pour, and no. But for this purpose, hey, there's my straight lines design. That coriander rosewood, it's still driving me nuts. I cannot put my finger on what that smell is. And so if somebody has used that scent from Lone Star and you know what that smell is, drop it in the comments, let me know, because it's been driving me nuts. As far as all of the things driving me nuts today, I don't have to do this one again. So I guess no more being driven nuts, but Georgia May will be tackling the straight lines design challenge tomorrow. So you should come back. And the best way to, you know, remember to come back would be to subscribe. That would be awesome. I would love that very much. For those of you who are subscribed, hey, thanks. You're awesome. I love you very much. Thank you so much for joining me for another round of 365 days of soap. I'm out of here for the day. I will see you guys all again tomorrow. Bye.